Namaste everyone. I formally take this opportunity to welcome all our participants for this last session of this FDP on Indic Local Self-Governance, the Indigenous Roots. We are extremely thankful to the Indian Knowledge Systems Cell at Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Khalsa College, Shri Anandpur Sahib, Punjab, uh, the college which has collaborated with NLD to organize this 6-day FDP. And as all of you, or at least some of you, who have regularly attended our programs at NLD would know that we are doing an FDP series for a long time now on Indian knowledge systems. Of course, there are other topics and other themes also which we cover, like research methodology, literature, soft skills, UGC net tutorials, visual communication, softwares, etc., research techniques. But IKS is of keen and special interest to all of us here because after the introduction of New Education Policy 2020, we all know the significance of IKS both in the school system as well as in the university education system. Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Khalsa College, Anandpur Sahib, our collaborating institution, was established in 1968 and it was granted autonomous status since the session 2019-2020. The college is committed to delivering quality education in both UG and PG streams of commerce, science, management, computer applications, agriculture, and other professional courses by providing ample opportunities for exploring the potential of every student. It has been a source of purposeful education for the entire belt covering Punjab and the neighboring states of Haryana and Himachal Pradesh since its inception. The autonomous status is actually the result of the team's consistent past efforts, and the college has been awarded A grade in NAC re-accreditation, as well as it has received College with Potential for Excellence status and the Star College scheme of DBT by Government of India. The college has another prestigious scheme to its credit, the DST FIST, and recently, Bhabha Atomic Research Center, BARC, initiated a national project for determining seismic activities of the area. The college also has its own community radio stations through which programs of educational and community interests are aired. So once again, I take this opportunity to convey gratitude on behalf of Team NLD to Dr. Jasveer Singh, Principal of the College and Convener of this FDP, Coordinator Dr. Gurpreet Kaur Madam, in charge of IKS Cell, Assistant Professor and Head, PG Department of English, Coordinator Professor JP Singh Sir and Professor Sharandeep Kaur Madam. We sincerely hope that all of you have had a very fruitful engagement with us for this FDP for the past 5 days. Again, just taking you through what Tanya ji has covered, and then we can start our discussion on taking IKS to the classroom. On the first day, that is 8th of September, we covered the basic principles of Indic local governance systems mentioned in the Vedas. On the second day, we spoke of basics of Indic governance in Itihas and Dharmashastras. On the third day, we discussed local customs and practices in Indic local governance. On the fourth day, contemporary local governance institutions were discussed, especially the Constitution, Panchayati Raj institutions to the 73rd and the 74th Amendment. And in yesterday's session, we continued our discussion on contemporary local governance institutions, and we also, through the last 5 days, we have discussed many examples. For example, on the first day, we discussed Mitti Cool, which is an initiative by a person here in Gujarat to develop these local environment friendly products. So, how we know that local governance institutions which run on Indic principles are still surviving. So, today we want to focus our discussion on taking all of this knowledge that we have compiled so far to our classrooms. So, here, let me ask all of you, and I would invite responses. I would also contribute to it. Most of you, I believe, may have taught IKS modules. You may have been in charge of IKS modules in your universities, departments, faculties, schools. So, how has the journey of taking IKS into the classroom so far been? What kind of opportunities and challenges do you see in this journey? What has worked for you when you took IKS to the classroom? What has not worked? What are the common questions that you face from your students in the IKS classroom? What you think can be done to help improve the capabilities, enhance the capacities of teachers to improve the implementation of IKS in the classroom. So let's start our discussion on this. Anybody can raise their hand and can start with their inputs to these questions. So anybody who would like to respond to these questions? You can pick up any question and then you can respond. It's just from an experiential perspective. Jai Shri ma'am, Himangi ma'am, Jyotirani Devi ma'am, Poonam ji, Varsha ma'am, Sanjogita ma'am. From your teaching experiences, what do you think? How has the experience of taking IKS to the classroom been for all of you? Who would like to respond first? Yes, Hemangi ji, can we hear from you? Okay, you will type, not a problem. Yes, Jayashri ji, would you like to respond? Jyoti Rani ji?
Hello. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Jayashri ji, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I taught IKS for 1 or 2 times only. I am from English department and I teach communication and soft skills. And as well as I teach human values plus personality development and contributory personality development plus problem solving and innovation. So these are the subjects I teach. But when I went for the proxy sessions of my colleagues who are teaching IKS, I found that students take it as history only. One. And second, they think that this is quite boring because they cannot relate with the present time. Most of the time it happens, and we have to make some efforts to connect those things to the present, and it is quite difficult most of the time because the subject is very ancient kind of, okay, and the total scenario is different. When we want to connect, then they have so many questions, students have so many questions in their mind, and most of the time they don't believe and they ask cross questions, and at the same time you are not able to convince them. Most of the time it happens because you don't have that many evidences, and this subject needs a lot of preparation. previous preparation. अगर आपने नहीं किया, if you don't have that kind of knowledge and preparation and experience, then it is very difficult to convince the student. And most of the students will ask like, what is the evidence of these things? We haven't read like this. And if means if I suggest some books or some research paper or something, and still they ask, okay, no, I have read somewhere else and it is not like that. Because there are many versions of the same thing. So this is the problem I found from my side. This is, thank you.
Thank you so much, Jayashri ji, for sharing your experience of taking IKS into the classroom. And I believe that most of the challenges that you have shared are also challenges faced by most others. We will come back to how to address these. Anybody else? Varsha ji, Sanjogita ji, Jyoti Rani ji, Poonam madam. Would you like to respond as we wait for Himangi ji's? Okay, Himangi ji has responded. I will read out her response. I've been teaching this subject since last 15 years. Wonderful to know this, Himangi ji. Fortunately, since last few years, the importance has been given, correct? Thanks to NEP, which we know already. Once it is institutionalized and mandated by the Higher Education Authority, of course, it is taken more seriously. When we teach the concepts like Swadharma or Nishkam Karma, learners find it difficult to even accept that this is something we need to follow. Correct. I think the simple reason, Hemangi ji, is because for so long we have been kept so divorced and so away from our ancient system in all aspects. So when it is introduced to them at the university level, at the level of higher education, they are not going to find it very easy to digest. It's a different thing when you have been groomed into those thoughts, schools, and ideas from the childhood. In school also it has been instilled. But with right stories attached to the concepts, it becomes easier to put things at least on the table. Yes. I think storytelling is a very important tool in IKS, telling stories and talking about our ancient icons, heroes, heroines, monuments, temples, Gurukul system, and making them relatable, or talking about anecdotes, talking about inspiring incidences, and then using these techniques to help our students appreciate what our ancient civilization had. The pedagogy has to be innovative and inspiring. That is when IKS will evoke interest. Okay.
Similarly in science, जैसे I am teaching pedagogy of science, है ना? Then whatever, suppose before starting the subject or before starting what is science, so we can relate science pedagogy with IKS also. Like, what is science? Science is an observation, it is a testing, it is a reasoning. Similarly, IKS is also the careful observation of nature and close relationship with society. So we can relate science with society, yeah, IKS with science, like this only. And with with the help of the poem recitation, what is science? कि जैसे सपोज मैं बच्चों को पढ़ाती हूँ कि आओ बच्चों तुम्हें सिखाएं क्या होता विज्ञान है, देखो अपने चारों तरफ तुम छिपा उसमें विज्ञान है. Similarly, we can correlate with IKS with the society also. It is IKS is the careful observation of the nature and the close relationship with the society. Similarly, science also. कि जो reasons देता है. Similarly, IKS is the, whenever we are careful, we have careful observation about the natural sciences. So natural IKS is IKS main, it is resolves the it emphasizes the problem solving, it involves problem solving approach also, IKS. Similarly, science is a problem solving approach. So we can correlate IKS with science like this only whenever I am teaching like this. And NEP also emphasizes like we have to integrate IKS in our science pedagogy like this only.
Correct.
According to my opinion.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that perspective, Poonam ma'am. You are absolutely right. When we relate it to what students are experiencing in the modern world with technology, with science, with other subjects, then it becomes more interesting. And I'm glad that you brought this
But
aspect
you know,
about
जब
connecting it
whenever
with.
I'm teaching, whenever Nidhi ji, whenever I'm teaching science pedagogy, my at the first of the starting of my this to teach science pedagogy, I was trying to correlate science with the society all similarly and with the help of the poem recitation. What is science? कई बच्चे साइंस नहीं जानते लेकिन उन्होंने साइंस पेडागोजी के बारे में जानने की इच्छा होती है तो ये पोएम के थ्रू पढ़ाने की कोशिश करती हूँ साथ साथ उसको आईकेएस से ऐसे ही रिलेट करती चली जाती हूँ
बिल्कुल ये बहुत अच्छी तकनीक है थैंक यू पूनम जी for sharing and one more insight that Hemangi ji has shared in the chat box that ask questions to students find out instances in their lives where
या
they
या
could have used the concepts मैं अपने क्लासरूम में ऐसा करती थी फर्स्ट या जो सेकंड क्लास है आईकेएस का आई कुड टेल आई टोल्ड माय स्टूडेंट्स कि आपके नाम का जो मतलब है वो आप पूछ के आइए मोस्ट स्टूडेंट्स वुड नॉट नो व्हाट देयर नेम means what Sanskrit term has the name come from. So I would tell them, okay, go and talk to your parents about the meaning of your name. In the second class, I would give a task that you have to talk to somebody who's elderly, who's a digital immigrant, your grandmother, grandfather, uncle, aunt, but somebody who's elderly, above 60. And you have to talk to them, find out about ancient practices, bring to classroom one such practice that is very peculiar to your context, and then we would have a discussion on that, and each one would come to know about the other person's practice, and that would also lead to some kind of cultural appreciation. So great. I can see Tanya ji has joined us. So Tanya ji, just to give you a heads up of what we have been discussing, since today's session is on taking Indic local self-governance principles to the classroom through the IKS module that has been mandated through NEP 2020. We were just discussing, I put some questions in front of the participants. What are the challenges, opportunities, what are their experiences of taking IKS to the classroom? How can it be made more innovative, interesting for the students? So we got some very useful responses, and now I request you to take over the session. Since you have also taught Arthashastra, Indic local self-governance, and many other aspects of IKS to UG and PG students, I'm sure your experiences of taking IKS to the classroom are also going to be very, very useful to all of us. Okay, just a minute. Somebody has gotten unmuted. Yeah, yeah. Over to you, Tanya ji.
Yes, namaste to everybody. Namaste, Nidhi ji. First of all, apologies. I was stuck in traffic, so I got a little delayed. But I'll make sure that I wrap it up within the time frame. And because I think most of this is actually covered in the last 5 sessions. How can, it was something that I think we discussed it quite a lot, and we also went into different aspects of it. The other thing is about about taking it to the classroom and what has been the experience. I think I share the same kind of experience that has been put across, where students will cross question, students will doubt your objective, will doubt the entire there are various dimensions to this entire issues that crop up. I don't think it is, specific or endemic to only IKS. When you take any kind of subject to the students, their first reaction is always cross-questioning, always asking questions, and kind of, wanting you to, आप खरे उतरते हैं कि नहीं उस पे. This is the time and period that, there is a lessening, respect and all that for any kind of student-teacher relationship. Does that mean that it is, obsolete, or it is something that should be done away with? I don't think No. So problems come up with every discipline, come up with every teaching practice, with every pedagogy. There's no such thing that is particular to any particular subject. Experiences are similar because the students are similar. The question that we come across too is having disbelief in any kind of theories that are put across from the text or scriptures that we have. That is very normal. I think if we were also in their place, we would also do the same. But it doesn't matter with age or anything. As Nidhi very rightly said, the lens and the narrative is something which is totally alien to us. So why blame only students? It is universal as of now, I feel. Even when the West looks at their glorious or inglorious past, जिसको dark ages और ये सब बोलते हैं, वो उसको झुटलाना चाहते हैं, because they don't want to associate themselves with anything that is negative. On the other thing, we have a peculiar problem. We don't want to associate anything with ourselves with which is positive. We are so in love with bashing ourselves and bringing negative concepts and thinking we are gone case people and all that. That is actually a lens and narrative that has been drilled down into our system. Now, when you develop that lens, you see everything from that perspective. You will also see, like Professor Kapil Kapoor says, ki, the Hindu community is one community which does Muharram every day. वो रोज अपने आप को lashes मारता है और उसको बहुत मजा आता है इसमें. I don't know what is the reason behind it, but the reason is this, that when you are told from the very beginning that Hindu rate of growth है, मतलब ये जो भारत है, it is not able to progress economically because Hindus है ना majority community. And I'm not talking about communal, I'm talking about what government policies have been there. What government has said. I'm not bringing in my perspective. Now, the major loathing community, self-loathing community is the majority community. Nobody can deny that. Other communities love themselves and their communities very much. Now, the question here is that how does this self-loathing or self-hate come into the picture? It comes in because the narrative has been totally usurped or distorted. History bhi hamari distorted rahi hai. We have, developed a lens, whether it is mass media also, whether it is serials, movies, they have distorted our lens. They have told us that you are a stupid, horrible community, whatever. I don't want to go into the details. Now, you come into this particular narrative while growing up, and क्या है कि आपके जो पहले के generations हैं वो भी अपने survival में लगे थे, तो उनको भी जो है time नहीं मिला. There are multiple aspects to it. They could not instill those kind of values. They were so caught up, they were frustrated with unemployment and all such things, and they took out their frustration on their children. Does that mean that the parenting is bad? So we have to empathize with their situation also. So what happens is, this is where the narrative steps in. आप अपने माता पिता से ग्रसित हैं, ये इसलिए है क्योंकि ये ऐसी ही कल्चर है, ये ऐसी ही ट्रेडिशन है, ये ऐसा ही कल्चर है, ये आपके अंदर जो है ये घुसा दिया जाता है. आप क्या अपने पति से ग्रसित हैं, तो ये तो कल्चर ही ऐसा है, नेशनल स्पोर्ट है ये औरतों को टॉर्चर करना. आप क्या अपने भाई से ग्रसित हैं, तो यहाँ पे ये नैरेटिव जो है घुसाया जाता है कन्फ्लिक्ट का. तो आपको क्या है, सोल्यूशन नहीं मिल रहा है, आपको जो है और एग्रेसिव और राग और द्वेष आपके अंदर बनाया जा रहा है ताकि आप और families break down हो जाए, ये हो जाए, and then you lead to individualism and loneliness, and then you see all these mental illnesses coming up and so on. You don't want any, और जो विकृतियां सामने आने लगती हैं, कोई self control नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है, and so on and so forth. It leads to more consumerism. आप अगर अकेले रहेंगे घर में, कोई और नहीं चाहिए आपको, तो आप बाहर से ज्यादा खाना मंगाएंगे, आप टीवी ज्यादा देखेंगे, आप क्या है कि ये जंक फूड ज्यादा खाएंगे, ये है वो है. So what will happen? Increase of consumerism. So we don't see those aspects क्योंकि वो narrative चलता नहीं है. Why are people having mental illnesses? What is the reason that pharma company and medical health is on the top? Because that is also a reason that has been propagated by these kind of narratives only. We have seen a breakdown in the West, in the societal system, in the family system, and everything. They are all trying to return back to the traditional path. But this is something which is now newly developing in India, and we will see it और विकृत होता रहेगा ये. There is, unless people understand, recognize this pattern, and they make steps. State तो बहुत बात की बात है, let's leave that out. But अपने आप से when they start, समाज is made because of people like us. When we start doing things, taking things in our hand, and we can. There are multiple ways. Now you have to go into the ways how you want to help and how you want to contribute. If you have a self-defeating tendency where you don't want to do anything and say ऐसा ही होता है तो फिर ठीक है ऐसा ही चलता रहेगा और वो विकृति की तरफ और contribution होता रहेगा. These are some major dynamics that one has to take. Now, when we talk about taking it to the classroom, the students' questions are very, genuine. It is taken that you will get these kind of questions because they have the same dilemma that we as teachers or we as elders are facing. So, when the experience I have also had is not dissimilar to what other, faculty have mentioned here. So first and foremost, when one enters, and I agree that there has been a lot of performative and a lot of superficial tendencies of portraying IKS, like it was all glorious, it was all great, it was all this. Absolutely, you can put that across that picture, but also our texts were not just these texts. Temples कैसे बनाते हैं, metallurgy, रसायन शास्त्र, Ayurveda, how do you build buildings which survive for thousands of years? How do you have this particular technology? There are various drains कैसे बनाने हैं. आप देखिए हरप्पा और मोहिंजोदड़ो में किस तरह से उन्होंने drains और ये सब बनाया है. How to build a sewage system, how to build, everything is there in these texts. हमारे जो ancestors थे, they were not sitting in some glorious, kind of palace or ये वो and thinking about abstract concepts. They have written about universal principles. They have also written about problems that are there in the society. No society is perfect. So those aspects are not discussed or not talked about. How Vastu was done in a village, how it was supposed to be laid out, what is the rationale, what is the science behind it. So all these things are actually dealing with day-to-day matters. So that is also a picture of IKS, which unfortunately, due to performative and over-the-top kind of thing, comes across. Now, when I teach as a governance, analyst or a, political system analyst or a administration analyst, I have to take a very, approach which is theoretical, which is model-based, and which is a framework-based. That is how you go into the academic and scholarly study of it. Is this divorced from ethics and practices and culture and morals that were prevalent? No, you cannot divorce. Society is not divorced from these models and frameworks. Societies contribute to these models and concepts and theories and frameworks. So you also have to look into the society that was prevalent and what was the driving forces behind these societies. So when I look at the panchayat system that was suggested in the Smritis, in the Shastras, in the Mahabharata and all those, I'm looking at the structure that they are talking about. How many families make a village? How many villages make a a block? How many uska kya hierarchy hai? Kaise hota hai? Kya rationale hai uske against? What is the other aspects that the dynamics that come in? What was the economic setup that was there at that time? What was the political setup that was? So when you look at all these things, you take out some core principles, some core, kind of takeaways that can be replicated in any date and time. Like, for example, this panchayat system that we have even now, the traditional system as I was talking, it is based on these concepts that you come from the society, you are chosen from the society keeps an eye on you, आपका जो है distance एक दूसरे से बहुत कम है, तो आप में जवाबदेही, accountability और transparency ज़्यादा रहती है. How do you curb any kind of corruption or any kind of excess? The people are very aware, they know कि ये हमारे बिरादरी के हैं, ये वो हैं. जो elders choose किए गए हैं उनका एक system है, hierarchy है, lineage है, family है. Ostracization is used as a tool. If any of these panchayat members behave in a very funny manner, the people take them to task. And I'm telling you, it happens even today. अगर कोई पंचायत मेंबर एक्सेस जो हेड है वो एक्सेस कर लेता है तो लोग उसके पीछे पड़ जाते हैं, उसको हटा दिया जाता है. There is absolutely no way that they tolerate it. Can you remove a bureaucrat if he is performing excess in any negative manner? Can you remove a democratically or constitutionally elected sarpanch? You cannot. आपको उसको झेलना ही पड़ेगा 5 साल तक. आप उसको पीट नहीं सकते, कुछ नहीं कर सकते, आपको जेल में डाल देंगे. But in these traditional panchayat systems, there will be immediate बहिष्कार. अगर किसी ने कुछ किया तो आपको कोई सिस्टम प्रोटेक्ट नहीं कर रहा है. It is the people itself who are choosing. People itself will tell you get lost, and they will then bring in somebody else in their place. So you see, the justice is of course speedy and cost effective, but you also have a control over the people that you are putting there to sit, and you can remove them. You don't have to go to through any legal machinery or any this system to remove somebody or bring somebody new in, या झेलना ही पड़ेगा 5 साल. The autonomy जो है, ये जो transparency है, this is the reason why these traditional systems are still surviving. एंड अगर आपकी पूरा समाज जो है वो इस डिसीजन को मान रहा है, तो आपको कोई दिक्कत नहीं, आप भी मान लेते, क्योंकि ये लोग मानते हैं कि समाज का हिस्सा, समाज हमसे ही बनता है. तो व्हेन यू हैव अ पर्टिकुलर ग्रुप दैट डिसएग्रीज विद द पंचायत डिसीजन, यू हैव द अदर ऑप्शन. यू गो टू द लीगल सिस्टम, यू गो टू द पुलिस सिस्टम. आप उसमें अपना रिपोर्ट लिखवाइए, कोई नहीं रोक रहा आपको, कोई नहीं कहता नहीं करने के लिए. नहीं करते हैं तो उनकी अपनी मर्जी है, तो उनको छोड़ दीजिए उस पर. आपको एक्टिविस्ट बन के उनको प्रोवोक नहीं करना है. सो दिस इज समथिंग दैट अपने समस्याएं तो सुलझाई जा नहीं रही है, दूसरों की समस्याओं में घुस के उनको ज्यादा ज्ञान बांटना है और उनको भी समस्या में धकेल देना है. दीज आर द काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स दैट वन हैज टू अवॉइड in this rage to become an activist or become reformer and so on and so forth. Unless you don't have the resources, please don't try to create problems for other people. So these are the certain things that people kept in mind. The other things about the plus points about traditional panchayats is, of course, the kind of उनको अपने आचार व्यवहार कस्टम्स यूसेजेस जो सदियों से चले आ रहे हैं, लोग उनको ठीक मानते हैं. उनको लगता है पहले का टाइम अच्छा था. जो हिंदू व्यू ऑफ लुकिंग एट टाइम इज दैट यू सी दैट समय के साथ चीजें बिगड़ती हैं. कलयुग आता है, उसके बाद फिर उसका रेवोल्यूशन होता है, ओवरथ्रो होता है, फिर दूसरा जो सतयुग है वो वापस आएगा, क्योंकि लोग फेड अप हो जाते हैं. दे वांट टू गो बैक टू देयर older systems. This is the reason also that we are all sitting here at this point. We want to learn about these traditions, what is our rituals, वरना हम लोग यहाँ पे होते नहीं. So ये जिज्ञासा ही एक जो है तरीका है जिससे पता चलता है कि लोग अभी भी कुछ मान्यता तो रखते हैं इसमें. So we believe in that, but the Western perspective is that things become better with time. Now even the West is trying to understand that whether they were better off earlier or whether they are better off now. They're in a question, kind of a system that it seems pehle it was a better off thing. Now we have gone totally berserk, in various theories, and also they are also questioning. They are also not at peace. So यही हमारा जो है वो रहा है कि we tend to look at what is there and how we can replicate it in the current system. So these are certain questions that students will bring to you. When we are also studying IKS, we also have the same kind of questions. But what appeals to us is somebody who is confident enough to listen to those questions, who is, yes, as Jayashri ji mentioned that, or Himangi ji mentioned that, somebody who is, has read a considerable amount, has understood the concepts, knows that these are the questions that will be thrown up, and then how do you answer it, in order for them to at least take an interest in knowing more about it. So until and unless you don't have that responsibility on your head and you feel that you are capable of doing it, then I think that is the only time that one should dive into it. Otherwise, it is a dishonest practice, in my opinion. जब आपके ऊपर NEP thrust किया गया है, IKS करना है, तो फिर there is a lot of problem with the implementation process also. Now, is this a state problem? Is this a policy problem? Or is this a text problem? या scriptures, ये हमारे culture का problem है, traditional problem है. In my opinion, this is a state policy ineffectiveness. It's not being implemented properly. You are just implementing it haphazardly because staff are not, equipped to take these classes. There is no kind of training or, thankfully, FDPs are now being conducted, like Nidhi ji and NLD are doing these kind of initiatives, which is actually a private initiative, a group initiative by the citizens. It is not a state initiative. Is the state providing training? Yes, they are also doing government-sponsored FDPs and all those things. How effective those are they taking feedback from that? That is also something, but पहले ये trust कर देना, फिर FDPs उसके बाद में करना and all that, this is a haphazard, it's a policy problem. ये आपके ग्रंथों की समस्या नहीं है, ये आपके मॉरल्स और एथिक्स और प्रिंसिपल्स की समस्या नहीं है, ये लोगों की भी समस्या नहीं है, ना स्टूडेंट्स की प्रॉब्लम है, ये एक पॉलिसी इशू है which is not taken out in a proper manner. So even now the government is learning and they are taking out new guidelines every day. They are retracting a lot of things. They are taking feedback. They are trying to make it as smooth as possible, the implementation. So when I look at a issue, I always look at it in which category does it fall. Is it a citizen problem? Is it a behavioral issue? Is it a problem with our text? Is it a problem with the culture? Is it a problem with this particular policy? Is it a state inaction? Is it a political will problem? And then you will then look at the solutions that are available to you, which you can take up if you are genuinely concerned about it. So mostly I see, this is this tendency that, people don't want to hear about it. People don't know. Everybody wants to hear. Everybody, as far as I have seen, want to know. But then you also have to have a particular approach where you yourself are well equipped, first of all, to handle the questions that come to you. Sometimes new questions will come. Aapko nahi pata. You tell them, I don't know much about it. I will find out and read and tell you. You are a teacher. You are not a perfect library of information, and students also understand that. So my approach has always been that when I would enter into this, I have been teaching public administration also in a central university for quite some years, and there they were all Euro American theories that we had. As I said, 99%. In the MA part, though, it's 100% Euro-American, theories. I used to get questions from my students that India में कुछ नहीं हो रहा था क्या? Now, when you are teaching them these Western concepts, they are unable to relate to it. They don't know what is this Henry Fayol, what is this, Abraham Maslow, what is this, other theories of Mary Parker Follett, and all these Frederick Winslow Taylor and so on, and Woodrow Wilson. So I have got so many questions coming from my students asking me, where are the Indian theories, madam? हमको अपना भी कुछ पढ़ना है, हमको अपना जो होता है वो सबसे, it is very dear to anybody, whether you hate it, you like it, or you don't like it, but जब बोलते हैं ना ये आपका अपने लोगों का है, तो लोग के कान खड़े हो जाते हैं. They want to want to know, want to find, अच्छा अपना है, अपना भी कुछ था क्या? भले ही क्रिटिकल हो, बट भले ही दो हो, पर उनको पता जरूर करना है कि ये अपना क्या था. So they will always, even women, they would always say that कहाँ है अपना, कहाँ है अपनी, कोई वो थ्योरी नहीं है क्या मैडम, अपना नहीं है क्या? And they would ask you questions, and then that is the time that I started understanding that you have to know. मुझे खुद पता है क्या इन चीजों के बारे में? मुझे भी नहीं पता, क्योंकि मैं भी इस एजुकेशन सिस्टम से निकली हूँ. And then your students teach you a lot. Then I went into reading and understanding our texts and our this. I told them that I have to read up. I don't know myself. So उनको ऐसे लगता है कि अपने कोई थ्योरी, हम तो कंचे खेल रहे थे, हम तो यहाँ बैठ के बस ऐसे ही बेवकूफ टाइप लोग थे, और यही लोग जो है हमें बता रहे थे क्या करना है. तो हम 5000 साल की सिविलाइजेशन कैसे हो गए, हम ये मोहनजोदड़ो और हड़प्पा के जो है वो कैसे बना रहे थे, so on and so forth. So they're not able to relate that if we did not have any administration or any management or any this principles, then how come this मोहन, फिर वो आर्यन थ्योरी में बिलीव करने लगते हैं. हाँ, आर्यन ही आए होंगे बाहर से, और वो आर्यन के मैनेजमेंट थ्योरीज किधर है? वेयर इज इट? उनका भी तो कुछ तो होगा, ये 5000 साल पहले जो ये बातें हैं. So that is where you plug in IKS and you make them understand that no, they were texts and you have to understand it in the right spirit. And how did they? Luckily, Arthashastra was discovered in 1905 by R. Shama Shastri in a library in Mysore. And we came to know that we had a whole statecraft treatise which was coming from thousands of years. बृहस्पति ने लिखा, शुक्राचार्य ने लिखा, शिव जी ने लिखा, ब्रह्मा जी ने लिखा, ये उसको छोटा छोटा करके युग और देश और काल और परिस्थिति के हिसाब से अब ये अर्थशास्त्र के रूप में निकल के हमारे सामने आया है. ये चाणक्य खुद बोलते हैं कि शुक्र और बृहस्पति, इन दोनों को मैं नमन करता हूँ, ये मेरे गुरु हैं, इनसे ही जो है ये अर्थशास्त्र आया है. तो मैं इसको बस कोलेट कर रहा हूँ. ये तो हजारों साल पहले की जो है विद्या है। उसमें फिर वो इंद्र की, शुक्र की, मनु की, सबकी बातें करते हैं कि वो ऐसे बोलते हैं पर मैं नहीं मानता, वो ऐसे बोलते हैं पर हाँ मैं मानता हूँ इस बात को, इससे मैं अग्री करता हूँ। ही इज डूइंग अ खुद का जो है ना पूर्व पक्ष शास्त्रार्थ विथ हिज ओन गुरुज। जो पहले तो ऐसा नहीं था कि जो वो बोल रहे हैं वैसा ही मान रहे हैं। Kautilya is looking at all the principles of Manu, of Shukra Niti, of Brihaspati Sutra, of इंद्र के जो अर्थशास्त्र, ये सब कहीं गुम हो गए हैं, थोड़े बहुत हैं, कई ज्यादा तो गुम हो गए, बट वो मेंशन करते हैं सब क्रोनोलॉजी। और इन सब ये ऐसे बोलते हैं, बहुदंती जो है इंद्र का नाम है, उषाना जो है शुक्र शिष्य में, मनु का तो नाम मनु ही लेते हैं वो कहते हैं कि वो ऐसे इस सिचुएशन में मनु ये बोलते हैं, परंतु मैं इससे अग्री नहीं करता, मैं मानता हूं कि अब इस समय में ऐसा होना चाहिए। पर ही इज बिल्डिंग ऑन दोज प्रिंसिपल्स, ही इज नॉट totally overthrowing those frameworks which have been running for thousands of years कि काम करता होगा तभी चल रहा है. He is building those theories, taking place, but he is also adding the contemporary perspective to it and saying that ये base ऐसे लेते हैं पर इसमें थोड़ा सा tweak कर लेते हैं. Now you have to read these texts to understand how he is agreeing with certain things and how he is disagreeing with certain things, or from the previous अर्थशास्त्र के जो लेखक है. So here you have a person who is saying that हाँ ऐसे होता होगा पहले काल में. अब यही सारी जो स्मृतियों का जो औचित्य ही था वो यही था कि जो या टीका या भाष्य जो लिखा जाता है कमेंट्री उस पे, these were the evolutionary systems of knowledge that we had developed as a civilization. After 1,000 years or after 500 years or even 100 years, somebody will write a smriti and they will critique the earlier smriti on these matters, and they will give their own perspective, but they are building on those models. So when you don't know the basis, how can you build even on that is the main question. Therefore, once the British enter, they codify these smritis and say कि यही है, यही last है, अब इस पे कुछ building नहीं होगा. तो वहां पे जो है ये एवोल्यूशनरी प्रोसेस खत्म हो जाता है. दैट इज वेयर इट बिकम्स स्टक. सो यू कम, यू स्टाइफल इट, यू किल इट, यू मेक इट स्टैग्नेंट इन टाइम, बिकॉज आपकी बुद्धि जो है, कॉलोनियल बुद्धि जो है, वो इसके डाइवर्सिटी को समझ नहीं पाता है, क्योंकि यू हैव वन बुक, you have one way of functioning, so you don't understand the diverse ways in which permutations and combinations from these texts are used. क्या ये स्मृति लिखने का या टीका लिखने का सिस्टम खत्म हो गया? आप अभी भी बनारस में जाएंगे BHU में या in these places, you will still find some shastris who are still writing tikas and bhashyas, but do they get the national forum to talk about it, to discuss it? They are leaving it. उनका क्या है, हमने बीज फेंक दिए, कोई ना कोई आएगा, पढ़ेगा, इसको आगे लेके जाएगा. तो उन्होंने रोका नहीं है. This is how Sanatan has always survived. Our civilization has survived. That people have come, they have thrown seeds, somebody will come and pick it up और उसको पौधा बनाएगा. तो ये आपको अपना नित्य काम जो है, कर्म है, करते रहना, निष्काम कर्म इसी को कहते हैं. So it has seen fruit. Many people come, they look at the text, they build on it, and they come up with theories. And there are many people doing it also. तो इसको क्या कहते हैं? इसको this is the example of निष्काम कर्म, कि you will do your duty. पढ़ लिख गए तो कोई रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी तो है समाज के प्रति. आपको ये जो उपकार भगवान ने किया, आपके कुछ कर्म होंगे पहले के, आपके कुछ संस्कार होंगे, तो आपको ये मिला है. अब आप इससे क्या करेंगे? आपको उद्धार करना है ताकि आपका अगला जन्म बेहतर हो. हम तो मल्टी लाइफ सिस्टम में बिलीव करते हैं. तो आप अगर बस में है, आप कर सकते हैं, आपके गुण और तत्व इतने अच्छे हैं, तो वो लोग कर जाते हैं. और कर जाते हैं तो कोई ना कोई आके पिकअप कर लेता है वहां से. अर्थशास्त्र भी निकला था ना, कितने आई थिंक अराउंड 1900 years later अर्थशास्त्र कहीं दबा हुआ था. निकला कहाँ से? मैसूर की लाइब्रेरी से निकलता है ना. लोग उसको फिर पकड़ के आगे चलते हैं ना. तो बीज तो छोड़ दिया उन्होंने. आपको ये कब निकले, ये पौधा बने, अब ये उसके गति पे निर्भर है. बट क्या आपको छोड़ देना है करना? भले ही हम लोग as city people leave it, but there are many people still doing it and they will continue doing it. That is the exact nishkam karma that is there. Now, the other question of when students question you about various things, you have to cross-functionalize, you have to cross-sectionalize various disciplines that come, क्योंकि हमारे way of thinking में no discipline is standalone. In the Indic way of thinking, you will find many concepts of psychology even in Natya Shastra, which talks about dance and song and music, etc. सामवेद में सब कुछ म्यूजिकल टोन्स में सेट है. Why do you think music is such a important aspect of any kind of healing, any kind of, mental blockage or growth, so on and so forth? It is coming from those times, and we believe that music and dance has a the samved. नाट्य शास्त्रों को पंचम वेद कहते हैं, क्योंकि कहते हैं कि वेदों के ही वो सिंप्लीफाइड करके ब्रह्मा जी ने और शिव जी ने ये बनाया. ब्रह्मा जी जो है सरस्वती देवी है, तो म्यूजिक दे दिया उसमें. नाट्य शास्त्र में शिव जी जो है डांस, ही इज द कॉस्मिक डांसर एंड द डांस इन इट. सो when we see these two things coming together, शिव जी खुद दे रहे हैं, ब्रह्मा, these are concepts. What does Brahma, represent as a concept? He represents creation. He represents the force that, causes creation. What does Shivji represent? He represents destruction. You have a synergy, a समन्वय of creation and destruction. सेल्स नए बनते हैं, 200 सेल्स मरते हैं हमारे बॉडी में. साइमल्टेनियसली क्रिएशन और डिस्ट्रक्शन चल रहा है. Not only that, even in society, they are, in nature, every day thousands of, insects are dying, thousands are being born. Are they not to the ecosystem? They are. आप उनके बगैर काम करके बटरफ्लाई तक निकल जाए, ऐसा स्टोरी चलता है ना, तो फूड चेन में से तो पूरा डिस्ट्रक्ट हो जाता है. So there is a cyclicity, there is an interdependence, there is everything that, comes and goes. The emotions that we experience are coming from a particular, aspect that develops that emotion inside us. So psychology is interwoven with dance and music in the Natya Shastra. The same way from the Natya Shastra, many management principles are drawn. So in the Artha Shastra itself, because I have looked at that text at length, you have metallurgy going on, you have, trading and mercantile, thing going on, you have, the education system being discussed. यहाँ तक कि जो administration system है कि जब natural calamities आते हैं, how are you supposed to deal with it? How do you go to war? International relations, geopolitics. How is it all discussed in one book? 15 books कहते हैं in their Artha Shastra, their chapters you can say. How is this person who is considered to be a statesman or a governance specialist talking about all these aspects? तो पिकल बनाना भी बता रहे हैं, वो तो ज्वेलरी कैसे बनाना वो भी बोल रहे हैं. क्योंकि कभी भी गुरुकुल एजुकेशन सिस्टम में there was never a demarcation between the different disciplines. This is a very colonial educational perspective. That's why you feel individualism and you feel disconnected from, certain disciplines, because you don't know the interdependence that is there. एंड आपको लगता है कि मैं साइंस पढ़ के क्या होगा, तो आर्ट्स ही पढ़ के, मेरे को क्या करना है उससे. बट नो, दैट इज नॉट हाउ द ह्यूमन माइंड फंक्शंस. लाइक yesterday we talked about left and right brain. So both are there in the head. You just have to put that to use. The more you don't use a certain part, it will become useless and the other part will become dominant. So this is how, we maintained a balance even in the earlier times by knowing that every discipline is interdependent. Like, Sushrut, he was doing plastic surgery. He was also, a person who looked at other aspects of, he also looked at sculpture. He also looked at other things, because कोई किसी को restrict नहीं करता था. You can be a master in many things. Now, how does that, is that कि अभी नहीं replicate हो सकता है, अभी हो नहीं सकता. हाँ ठीक है, कलयुग है, बुरा टाइम चल रहा है, परंतु ये भी आप देखिए कि यदि आपके पास ये टेक्स्ट है एंड यू, इफ यू हैव एक्सपर्ट्स हु आर ready to experiment with it. We don't have our own governance system, we don't have our own societal system, we don't have our own economic system. On what basis are you rejecting or, saying that this is not practicable, this is not acceptable, when you have not even tried? So rejecting models, frameworks, principles, and, narrative or approach of looking at things, I think is very, very premature when you have not even tried to implement or experiment with these things in a totally alien setup that we are in. This disconnect is coming because we don't have our own systems. And how will it be rectified? Unless everybody becomes knowledgeable about their own systems, their own practices, how it was functioning, why the world thinks of us in such a manner. Angus Madison in his report says that for 1500 years, we were contributing almost 35 to 40% of the GDP. And from the time the invasions started and all that, it started to deteriorate. Where did we fall short? How much did we fight? Where did we, kind of give up? And these people, what strategies did they use to, fool us and enter and, become one of us, and so on and so forth. So these are some things that we need to understand, that for 1500 years, what was being written about us, how were we performing, can it be replicated in today's times, what kind of systems do we have to overthrow, how do we overthrow, what kind of revolution, what kind of people's public awareness that has to be brought. अभी तो ये शुरू हुआ है, अभी तो बहुत साल लगेंगे, दशक लग जाएंगे, मेरे को लगता है शायद एक पूरा शतक ही लग जाए, नहीं पता कि कब तक लोगों में इसकी जो है रिस्पेक्ट जागे, ये कब तक लोग इसको समझ पाएंगे, कौन सी पीढ़ी ऐसे होगी जो इसको फिर इम्प्लीमेंट करने के सिचुएशन में होगी, अपना सिस्टम ला पाएगी और फिर उसको देखेगी कि क्या पता वही सतयुग लेके आए. सतयुग तो आना ही है. It's a system that we work, and we have seen it that right now we are in the horrible phase, which is Kali Yuga. So we look at the ancient periods, and that is what is the concept of Satyug and Dwapar and all that kind of things. We don't look at it in literally how they tell you 4.5 लाख और ये वो आपके सामने की बातें हैं. तो ये जो चीजें हैं, राम मंदिर when it started off, I can just give it as an example. When the Ram Mandir movement started off, everybody said impossible है. नहीं होगा, कभी नहीं होगा, ये तो होगा ही नहीं, ये तो बिल्कुल नामुमकिन है. 500 साल लड़ाई लड़ी लोगों ने, गिव अप नहीं किया. ये कौन से लोग थे, ये किस टाइप के लोग थे, कौन थे ये किस टाइप की इनकी जो है अपब्रिंगिंग थी, जो इन्होंने गिव अप नहीं किया. जाने गई, लाशें बिछी, खून बहा, किसी को फर्क नहीं पड़ा. दूसरी पीढ़ी खड़ी हुई कि इसको पाके रहेंगे, चाहे कुछ. कौन ये जागृति इनमें रख रहा है 500 साल तक? What is it that does not let them let go of that? There has to, इसकी स्टडी होनी चाहिए. This is to be studied. These are the kind of live examples that you see. And when you go, at one point there will be a generation which will witness it, which will bring it to the fore, which will make it a reality. We are that part of the generation. There's now, if somebody talks of maybe 100 साल बाद बोलेंगे कि 500 साल तक लड़ते, बड़ा बकवास, ऐसा कुछ होना होता है. सब बन गया, गिरा दिया इन लोगों ने, इनका मनमौजी थे, मन में आ गया, जाके गिरा दिया, ढा दिया उसको, और फिर बनाना ही पड़ा कुछ ना कुछ. तो ये 100 साल बाद ऐसे ही बातें होंगी. ऐसी बातें ना हो, इसके लिए जरूरी है कि ये जो जागरूकता है, ये सबसे पहले तो परिवार से ही इसको, जैसे फायर का कंसेप्ट होता है ना, घर की जो अग्नि होती है, तो अग्नि को कभी बुझने नहीं देते. आप ट्रेडिशनल फैमिलीज में देखेंगे तो वो छोटा सा कोयला या कुछ रात को पूरा दिन टाइम जलेगा, उसके बाद सुबह को उसी अग्नि से वो लेके फिर गैस जलेगी या चूल्हा जलेगा. और ये अग्नि किसी और के उसमें नहीं देना, वो आपके लीनिएज की अग्नि है, जिससे जो है वो आशीर्वाद है. तो वो अग्नि जो है, अमर ज्योति जिसको कहते हैं, वो घर घर का कंसेप्ट हुआ करता था कि ये जो अग्नि है, यही जो है नर्चरिंग और स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट है. सो इसको बुझने नहीं देना है. जिस दिन ये अग्नि घर की बुझ गई, तो then it is considered to be a very bad omen. But nowadays people don't follow that. That ritual has gone, this. But if you ask people who are still following it, they believe in it. कुछ अनुभूति हुई होगी ना. Our entire civilization is based on experiential understanding of things. There is no one person telling you this is how you have to think, this is how you have to experience. You will experience the divine only in this manner. There are texts, you go on your path, and if you experience the divine, that experience is sacred. And then you cannot say कि your experience is better than mine or my experience is lesser than yours. Everybody has their experience, but at some point everybody has experienced the divine in some way or the other. Some experiences will be there which you are not able to explain. So these kind of concepts, ये जो ग्रह अग्नि की जो concept है, it is not only a physical concept, it is also a cultural, it's also a spiritual concept. So similarly, if you want आगे की पीढ़ियों को तो कुछ हमको भी लेना पड़ेगा. You cannot leave it to the education system or the state for everything. We have to keep it alive in the minds of our future generations. And trust me, if it is passed on in the right way, there is no such generation that wants to not be proud of its own heritage and lineage. Ram Mandir is one kind of example that one can give. Other examples that people can bring to the fore about traditions continuing and seeing the light of day when people thought it was impossible. So we'll have to pull out these. Like I told you, Professor Kanaga Sabapati ka jo book hai, he talks about how the ancient merchant and trading and business systems are still being practiced even today in the southern villages, and they are in thousands of crores unka turnover ho raha hai, import export and all those things. What kind of arts and crafts they are using, what kind of businesses they are doing. So this unorganized sector he talks about in the kind of larger scheme of things. So when you enter a classroom, you have to be, this is one thing that one has to be clear. You have to be very clear that what is your subject. Since my subject is governance and administration, I look at models, frameworks, and concepts. I study those. And when I go into a classroom, I picturize it, and then I bring in the contemporary examples that are there, like the traditional panchayats are there. Why they are functioning in a certain way, why are they still surviving, what is the reason, what are the papers and reports that are in support of them, what are the cases that have been there to badmouth them, what is the reality of those cases. I'll search. It's my duty to do that if I'm teaching that subject, and students will have their doubts and questions. That is also a learning experience for me. How they ask, what they ask doesn't matter, but you have to be capable to make sure that you take it with a lot of empathy and feel empathy for them, that they are also victims of this system, and they are also questioning out of that ignorance, not that they hate their culture or their society or their, वो वही पैरेट कर रहे हैं जो उनको मास मीडिया बता रही है, जो पढ़ते हैं, जो उनको बचपन से स्कूलों में पढ़ाया गया है, वो अपने मन से नहीं बोल रहे. It's not that they have उन्होंने एक्सपीरियंस किया है वो सब और फिर बोल रहे हैं कि घटिया है. So they are giving second hand reactions which they think are very cool, which is okay. Then you have to tell them that the concepts that you believe in, what is the legitimacy behind those. Like suppose if you talk about corporatism, this word corporate has originated from the Protestant Revolution. It's a Christian religious concept, corporate. So priests के और उसके church के जो होते हैं, they were corporate bodies. Corporatism, you can look it up on the internet. Where does it originate? It originates in a religious system in Europe under the church. When you look at concepts like capitalism, when you look at concepts like this, you have to see what is the originating point. Even socialism, they will all have some kind of to tell you about Karl Marx. If you have read Karl Marx and Marxism, it is normally said he was the prophet of the religion called Marxism. So he also had a dream of being a prophet, and he should have his own religion, which is Marxism. And in that, you have to see his viewpoints towards, the Indian civilization. How can somebody having such hatred for these kind of, systems without even experiencing it, without even coming here and seeing it, just by hearsay, and that becomes a part of his theory, and that is repeated so many times कि आपको लगता है कि मार्क्स को सब पता है, मार्क्स को ज्यादा पता है, आपको अपनी सिविलाइजेशन के बारे में बिल्कुल विश्वास नहीं है जो आपने एक्सपीरियंस किया. Marx writes that the state is a man-made body. Anything that is man-made is pagan. तो जैसे मूर्ति बनाते हैं ना, तो वो भी man-made है, वो कहते हैं, क्योंकि in the Christian religion and in the Jewish and all these religions, that Almighty is invisible. You're not supposed to make structures of it, basically. So he compares the state to a pagan deity. And what do you do with pagan deities? You are supposed to smash them. You are supposed to break them. This is the writings of Marx. You can read it on the internet. And he says that similar to breaking idols, one has to also break the state. Now, you tell me, is this the analytical or a scholarly way of talking about things? It only shows your hatred towards a certain community and practice and civilization, which you have no knowledge about, by the way. Your Abrahamic, narratives, जो आप religious स्कूलों से या पढ़ के या अपने उसमें आप उसको थोप रहे हैं. Now, don't tell me Marx is not religious when he talks about these things. Don't tell me he's an atheist when he's propagating such kind of things. So, through his writings, he is propagating his own faith. When he says that state जो है pagan deity के बराबर है, pagan deity का क्या करना चाहिए आपको पता नहीं है? उसको तोड़ के नस्त नाबूद करना ही तुम्हारी ड्यूटी है. आप मुझे बोलिए ये कोई prophetic आपको वो नहीं लग रहा है? When you read these things and you tell students these things, no, उनको भी नहीं पता हो. हमने नहीं पढ़ा तो वो students बेचारे क्या पढ़ेंगे? They are only dependent on you, what you tell them. So when you tell them, now I'll talk about Max Weber. Max Weber is a very, prominent administrative thinker. He was a psychologist and a sociology kind of expert. But before that, he wanted to become a priest because his mother was very religious and he wanted to become a priest of the, a church. So he had very strong principles about certain civilizations and communities and all that because that is influencing his back thought. And similarly, that's why when he builds these models also, they're very similar to church stronghold, the steel frame of the iron, iron frame of bureaucracy, so on and so forth. Those are all coming directly from ideas that are coming from faith-based brainwashing. And we take it as it to say it's very secular, very atheist, very framework-oriented. Is his framework perfect? No. But we are still taught. It doesn't apply as it is nowhere in the world. एक टाइम करा था फेल हो गया अब उसको जो है ट्वीक करके पर फिर भी पढ़ाया जाता है बट डज एनीबडी नो व्हाट अ काइंड ऑफ फंडामेंटलिस्ट ही वाज इन मैटर्स ऑफ रिलीजन नोबडी नोस बट वी विल बी फर्स्ट टू ब्लेम आवरसेल्व्स कि वी आर द वन हु आर हर चीज रिलीजन से देखते हैं फेथ से देखते हैं हमको हर चीज में जो है वो देखना है बेकार है ये है आई विल गिव यू मल्टीपल एग्जांपल्स ऑफ मेनी थ्योरीज कमिंग फ्रॉम these backings only.
So Tanya, just interrupting you, I have to exit as I have to attend a society meeting. So I am making you the host of the meeting and you can end it.
Okay.
When you just click on the leave call, the meeting will end.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you, Nidhi. Namaste.
Namaste, everyone. Just reminding everyone of the feedback form. I have kept the feedback form link in the chat box, and I have also posted instructions about the certificates in the WhatsApp group. So kindly make note of the fact you will receive your certificates in the next 10 days along with this. Thank you, everyone.